Hi, I'm Russ Reed, and I'm with Innovate Bio. I'm the co-PI for Goal 3, which is basically workforce-oriented. And today we are very, very thrilled to have Peter Pellerito, who's Senior Policy Advisor, Federal State Economic Development and Technology Transfer Lead for the Biotechnology Innovation Organization based in Washington, D.C. Good day, Peter.
How are you? Glad to be here.
I also have on this conversation, as we usually do for the Leadership Institute interviews, Dr. Thomas Tubon from Madison Community College. Tom, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Russ. Hi, Pete. It's good to have you guys.
Thank you.
And our backup, not least for sure, is our Sean Killebrew, who is our steady technician who makes these things happen. So, Sean, welcome again. Pete, you're on our advisory committee for this Innovate Bio National Center for Education NSF grant, and you're also on our Industry and Workforce Advisory Council. The purpose of the Leadership Institute, as we've mentioned at those meetings, is that we see a graying of our faculty, and we see some very prominent leaders within the community college system who are in the bio area getting ready to retire. And in fact, many have retired. And what happens is we tend to see a lot of that intellect leave the building when they leave. So in anticipation of more of that, we're really doing this in terms of succession planning. So one of the things we have noticed, and it's very crucial, I think, and given the fact that I come from industry, is that we really want to give, within the Leadership Institute, the participants a really good understanding from an industry perspective so that we're not duplicating anything that they might get at their own college in terms of leadership. And so we're just delighted to have you here today because you and I have interacted for, oh my gosh, I think it's going back almost 2 decades. But, you know, one thing I've always admired about you is your heart for the community college system. And so I was just wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, and maybe you can speak to that heart issue that I've mentioned. But at the same time, I have a second question, which is what actually do you do at Bio?
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be a part of this process. I am originally from Michigan, and I am a community college graduate from Los Angeles Pierce College. I went on to California State University, then to Michigan State to grad school, and then after that worked at a community college in Traverse City, Michigan, Northwestern Michigan College there. And so I have seen in my career, in my background, the whole spectrum of the higher education continuum. Community colleges are so invaluable for a whole variety of reasons, not only skill set and tech and the ability to transfer to a 4-year institution, but also the opportunity to learn in an environment that is special to a region or to a county or to a community, and to associate with that college, which I think is part of the experience and a very important part of it. Because I think once you get to a larger institution, you lose to some degree some of the connectivity to classmates, to classes, et cetera. So community colleges are a great springboard to all kinds of life experiences, no matter whether it's just an associate's degree and then moving into the workforce, or whether it's continuing an education. In part, that's what I do at Bio. My job is to understand the higher education community here in the United States, and on behalf of our companies, because we are a trade association, we're 1,000 members from all over the country, on behalf of our companies to understand and work with the academic research community to identify students who can successfully come into our industry with the skill sets and the general education needed to be successful, which we all want to be, and something that we as industry would like more and more to have qualified people who actually want to be with us. Uh, Another area that I'm involved in actually is at another level. It's understanding how intellectual property that a lot of graduates of community colleges are either directly or indirectly involved in, how intellectual property is created through patents, companies, and the ability to make products and services for people to feel better, to have food, and certainly to improve the environment. So that's generally what I do, but also remembering that I have a strong community college background.
Pete, thank you for that. And that really illustrates your roots, and also puts you really in touch with our population. And so we really admire that. And I know personally from having interacted with you for so many years that it's something that you do the extra mile for, and we really appreciate that. My next question then is more for the purposes of these participants, our fellows that are actually watching you now, or actually listening and watching this tape, which is, why is it important for these leaders, these future leaders within the community college bio programs, to actually connect with a trade association like bio?
Well, you know, learning is a multifaceted opportunity. We, of course, have books, we have computers, and other related resources. What students don't have, what students need, and what we hope students will want to pursue is an understanding of endpoints of their education, or midpoints of their education, depending on where they decide they want to end up in their academic environment. Working with trade associations, working with societies, working with those entities that can help a student better understand his or her skill sets, interests, and aspirations is clearly an important reason to want to understand what those are kinds of organizations are involved in. In part, if you're a 18, 19, 20-year-old just coming out of high school, the reality is you don't have the full understanding of the big picture. Working in a classroom is I think, with a teacher who understands the needs of the student to understand the general education, but also the environment by which they'll get a job. It's important to have those kinds of connections so that they individually, as students, can see the possibilities in their life. We all have to have aspirations. My children are both biologists. When they were undergraduates, they did not necessarily know what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, but they were fortunate enough to reach out to societies and organizations who helped them understand the professional career opportunities, and to help them actually understand passion in their life in pursuit of a career, but also in pursuit of happiness in doing something that I think is very important. So the role of trade associations, the role of academic advisors, the role of other societies, any way to reach out to the community, the broader community, is one of those soft skill sets that I think is a very important to all of the students in this program to know about, to become involved in, and then ultimately in a successful career to be a mentor, to actually then move on to the next and be supportive of the next generation of young minds, bright minds, who want to be in, for us, our industry, but certainly for other industries as they pursue their life goals.
Thank you, Pete. I just have one final segment of my question, then I'll turn it over to Tom. And that is one of the things that we would like to see as a result of the Leadership Institute for these community college educators is to be able to make that connection. So how would you recommend that these participants, they are instructors, and as you said, they anchor their classrooms, and they have to sort of show the students, the big world. But at the same time, how do they do it? We get that question so often. How do they actually get into the trade association momentum?
Well, let's see if I can explain my sense of it. So we are a national trade association, and so we look by and large at national opportunities and challenges. And in the workforce area, we understand the general needs of our companies in our sector. There are a whole variety of state associations that are related to us in the 50 states and Puerto Rico. There are individual advisory committees in individual colleges or in individual communities. If I was a student interested in connectivity to our industry, I would, and if I was the faculty member who was able to be helpful, I would start at the local level. I would, in fact, identify companies within my academic training and to students, to reach out to them, to some of these companies, and identify themselves, ask for a relationship, and try as best as possible to bring their students into the company framework, either a tour or a speaking opportunity, inviting the company to bring someone to the classroom to talk about what that company does, what that company's aspirations are, and how students can in fact participate once they graduate in the company or similar. And that does two things. One is it provides the students information and the faculty information. It also provides the companies the opportunity to see what's going on the ground in the classroom, which is very, very important in the process. So I wouldn't look at the big picture. I'd look at local. I'd start with local. And if I was a faculty member, I would probably take some of those steps to begin with. And then because there is cascade of opportunity there, but it all starts, I think, local.
Thank you, Pete. That's great. I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thanks, Russ. And Pete, thank you for such great advice. You had mentioned a couple of points that I think also resonate across the board here, and that is about inspiring the next generation here, instilling passion and reaching out to the community. And what you had just discussed are ways really to engage and embed those values in our participants, as well as people who are just in general investing in this idea of education for biosciences and for workforce development. The National Science Board pushed out a study very recently emphasizing the idea of supporting the skilled technical workforce. And, we think of that oftentimes as through the tech and community college. And what we're wanting to ask is a little bit more of your perspective of what the prevailing issues are with bio with respect to workforce and education that affect the community college and our ability to provide this as a potential resource.
Well, so there are several, and I'll bring up a couple of them. The inequality of teaching in the K-5, K-12 system. Math is math, science is science. The skill sets needed by a teacher in a high school environment in the STEM community needs to be at the highest quality, not only for that person's professional career and development, but also the ability to translate it to their students in the K-12 system. So it is funding is uneven, and and while I believe that everyone believes very strongly that STEM is incredibly important, not only for the individual, not only for the family, not only for the community, but we're in an international competition for our industry. So we're not just competing against, Texas versus California versus North Carolina versus Michigan. We're competing in an international environment. STEM is incredibly important for us to maintain our critical role as a technology sector, but also very much important to have the larger society know that STEM is very important, not only to the teacher and to the student in the short term, but incredibly important in the long term. Because when you look at all of the advances in technology that we've had in this country, certainly of all the years I've been around, is because we have bright minds who are inquisitive, who've had a solid background of learning, who are able and interested to go to the next level, to be productive and to have something they're proud of. And to me, that is probably the one important thing that our industry has always been an advocate for, is the ability for bright minds to be in our industry, and these bright minds to be educated successfully in all school systems, to be able to be successful in a job career, no matter whether it's on our technology sector or others. STEM is very, very important, and therefore it's important to us.
Thanks, Pete. I think we're going to push this one a little bit further, and not only is an issue, as you brought up, of inequities, but one that speaks to diversity and inclusion. And we know from a variety of different angles that diversity and inclusion is an important issue when we think about employability. And we're hoping that you can speak to the idea of creating a more diverse workforce at the skilled technical level, and what this means from a bio perspective when we talk about diversity and inclusivity.
Well, it's all, our industry is based on people who have a passion, who have learned important skill sets, as we've mentioned before, who need connectivity, who need encouragement, who needs resources if needed to be successful. It doesn't matter who you are in this country. That the priority, the most important priority, is the ability for each individual to be successful to the extent of their skills and to the extent to which they desire to be successful. So yes, bio 4 years ago as a national trade association, this became a very strong emphasis of ours. And in fact, this past June, we have begun a national discussion about bioequity, and workforce is a very important part of it. I have, over the years, as Russ knows, I have spoken to students that are related to the United Negro College Fund, historically Black colleges, universities, and other groups. My message has always been, we need you in our industry, and we want you to know we want you in our industry, and we want to work with you and teachers and administrations and the broader community, find assets to be able to help you be successful. So no, diversity is incredibly important, and all phases of diversity. Because again, I keep harking back. I said this earlier. We may, as states, compete with each other. They may compete with each other for us, but this is the U.S. This is America. We need to all be together we need all the, I keep saying this, but it's true. We need all the bright minds we can in our industry, and impediments, there should be no impediments. And as far as our industry is concerned, that's our goal going forward, as it has been in the past.
Thank you, Pete. I really appreciate your perspectives and your viewpoints, which really encapsulate the need for engagement and reaching out across so many different areas here to inspire and to really help us to generate that next generation of talent. Do you have any additional advice or thoughts that maybe you would like to share with our participants for the Leadership Institute with Innovate Bio?
Yes, I think as a general comment, I applaud the students. I applaud the faculty. I applaud our companies, both large and small in our industry, and other stakeholders who see our industry as valuable, who see the value of successful citizenry to the point where individuals are successful in a career. Because if you're successful in a career, by and large, you're going to be successful in your family life. Family life is incredibly important, certainly to us. And I think a well-rounded individual who is well-trained and has the skill sets, has the connectivity, has a job that matters, and is absolutely important, should always be the highest priority for no matter what we do as citizens and no matter what we do as people who care about our neighbor.
Pete, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments, and on behalf of Innovate Bio, we really, really do appreciate the time that you spent with us today. I, for one, can certainly relate to your comment about work-life balance and the importance that has to really thinking about how we map our futures. So I'm going to turn it back over to Russ. Russ?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Can you guys all hear me okay?
You can.
Great. Great. Pete, what a dynamic interview. I think our fellows will be just delighted. We're very hopeful that you'll be able to come back for the in-person part when COVID lifts in probably June of 22. So just on behalf of Innovate Bio, as Tom says, we just want to thank you very, very much. Thank you also for your leadership at our board, which is the NVC, and also at the National Advisory Council. Thanks, Pete. It's just wonderful. Wonderful to hear you today. Thank you.
I'm very happy to participate, and I look forward to actually meeting students and meeting faculty as I have done in the past. It's one of the great thrills of mine to be able to see students wanting to succeed. It's in our industry, and it harkens back to many years ago when I actually was an academic. And this is ultimately what we really want, isn't it? We want students and faculty in our industry to be in sync together moving forward in a very challenging environment now, but hopefully because of the work our companies and these students will be doing in the future, we will have a much healthier and safe world going forward.
Thank you, Peter. That was just excellent summation. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.